All right.
You ready?
Yes, I think I'm ready. All right, so I'm going to be doing Amazon transfer pricing report and jump into it. My name is Charles Lincoln. Hello. So, brief description. Amazon is a huge conglomerate that are engaged in all sorts of businesses. They have horizontal, they have vertical integration. They're engaged in a lot of businesses, but they're primarily known as an online retailer, both here in the United States and abroad. And the major source of their revenue comes from book sales, which was what they initially started off to be. Looking at industry reports and industry analysis, Amazon fits into a lot of categories because it's such a holistic business. I'm going to be focusing specifically on its internet, like online retail, and the trademark and kind of franchise that's associated with that. So with that in mind, we're kind of looking at an internet direct retail marketing industry. And that's primarily aimed at B2C, business to consumers, but it also involves a small level of B2B, business to business. The big value drivers are the algorithms, the substance behind the Amazon website, and kind of like how it functions predicts what you want to get next, like based off your former clicks. And to some extent, this also includes the trademarks that are associated with Amazon and similar businesses within this industry. So there's a lot of competitors. Amazon's engaged in all sorts of businesses. One example is like eBay, another online massive retailer. But it also competes with the same regard with like when it's selling Apple products, so is Apple.com, often for a similar price. Dell.com, Staples, all sorts of websites that can be specialty retailers, perhaps could even offer better deals than what Amazon itself is offering. Like I mentioned, Amazon is it's a book retailer. That's its main source of revenue. So it's competing with the brick and mortar book retailers like Barnes and Noble, Half Price Books, other like independent bookstores, and other bookstores. Actually, Goodreads used to be connected with ABE Books. But actually it's been recently acquired, but it was an example of another online retailer that was selling books, primarily used books. It's also engaged in like the ebook industry. There's all sorts of suppliers offering ebooks. But this is just, so there's lots of competitors out there. Even have a footnote right here. Amazon, it competes with Google for developing apps and things like that. But I'm focusing primarily on online retailers just to show there's lots of competitors that are also affecting the Amazon business. But Amazon is competing with them, but I'm focusing primarily on this online retail aspect. So with that in mind, there's five forces that are kind of affecting this. You can get substitutes. You could always have like a new entry that's sort of a low threat because Amazon's already invested billions into this online retail industry. It would only be like the Googles of the world that could really compete with Amazon by setting up a new platform. It's hard to just develop this trust in consumers to get them to come to Amazon. So switching the substitutes is kind of a weak force, but it is a possible force. There's suppliers. It's a force in the business. You could get suppliers from Apple, you get it from Dell, but I mean, a lot of Amazon has this quick like integrated function whereby you can send, retailers can just sign like a contract of adhesion. You just kind of like sign up on their website, you're already a retailer. It's sort of a simple process. So suppliers, it's better if they just go directly to Amazon, and then Amazon can take things really easily from the suppliers. Like I said, the substitutes and potential entrants, you'd have to have a really massive industry player like Walmart to come in, or a Google to come in, but it's not likely going to be someone starting up from the ground up like Amazon did in the early 90s. And this is a really big force within the Porter analysis. Buyers, they've developed a lot of trust. They trust Amazon. They're going straight to Amazon. They're familiar with it. And so that's a strong, since Amazon is so customer focused, like their algorithms, they keep on talking about it, like their main priority in like the entire company, that's like their mantra. It's all about being customer obsessive. So they're trying to provide the best experience for the customer, which in their mind is sort of predicting what the customer is going to want using these algorithms that are integrated in the user experience. So that was that. Now we're going to the value chain. You got a whole level of support activities that are sometimes very essential, especially for the ones that I'm focusing on, marketing and sales, and the services of the e-commerce side, like technology. R&D is deep into that, but the support activities are, so that's why the support activities are building some profit margins here on the left. There are primary activities: inbound logistics, bringing goods in, like the books, for example. Operations is like operating the warehouse, be it here in the U.S. or in Ireland or abroad or in Europe. And then outbound logistics: once the order's been come through to the warehouse, you send it out. And the ones that I'm focusing on is this marketing and sales and the services to the customer. So those are arguably the largest like profit margin drivers, but they're deeply connected with the support activities like R&D and like technology development. And this is just kind of a summary: the inbound logistics, operations, outbound, sales and marketing, service. They're all working together. Part of the service, which you could be considered as an HR support, or as part of the support activities, is really helping the customer's experience, which is driving profit. And that, with the technology, is providing the competitive advantage for Amazon in the business. And another major support activity that's driving profits through support going down to the profit making activities is the firm infrastructure that's heavily based on algorithms, not just predicting what customers want, but what the customers is this management information system that is using algorithms not only to like predict what customers want, but also to use that data to kind of like enhance what Amazon is doing internally. The competitive advantages that like are main for the online retail is the R&D, the algorithms that are connected with the technological infrastructure, and of course other things like they're open 24/7. I mean that's sort of taken for granted these days. You can get returns. They're always asking for policies. They have this easy payment system online. And just as a final note, like Amazon is this huge corporation. They're constantly acquiring new businesses. There was a Wall Street Journal article: Jeff Bezos sleeps like 45 minutes a night. He's like an amazing superhuman who's just like not only works really hard, knows how to effectively manage his time, and he's involved apparently with all these acquisitions. This was like a Business Insider diagram that they created. I mean, it's from a few weeks ago, but it's probably already outdated. Because they I think a few weeks ago they got Goodreads, and I don't see it here on this map, but they're just all over the place. This is actually just a small list. They're engaged in robotics and things. But anyway, so they're this big horizontally, vertically integrated company. But I'm focusing on the online retail aspect. So the intercompany transaction, with that in mind, that I'm focusing on is we got Amazon Seattle, U.S. company. It transferred an intangible, kind of a franchise agreement, to Ireland, Amazon Ireland. The IP was placed over there, so that means whenever, and the way this function is, whenever sales are made anywhere in the world with return worldwide vendors, they come into the United States, they come into Ireland, and the profits are there anywhere outside the United States. So if sales are made in Germany, Hong Kong, where Amazon operates, anywhere in the world, the profits are going to be in this Amazon company. And then there's this blue arrow indicates a royalty rate going back, which is what I'm going to focus on. These are the answers here on the left, but this royalty rate is the transfer price that we're going to try to see is economically what should be the transferred price. So this is kind of a sneak peek of what we're going to get to here on the left side. So the first step in doing this transfer pricing analysis to figure out what that blue arrow meant was to do a functions risk analysis. So the functions FAR analysis is figuring out what the functions are, documenting them, and see how those are economically significant activities. So basically you do your FAR analysis, and you characterize those functions, assets, and risks, and you see how they ultimately lead to the pricing of the transaction. So, using that rule and applying it here, we got Amazon Seattle. You know, they're doing some management. They have financial capacity to assume risk. But then Amazon Ireland is managing sales abroad. They're developing the IP somewhat. You know, I mean, presumably, it's hard to imagine, but you know, Ireland probably didn't know what the IP or like what Amazon was. So they tried to market it out to Europe initially, so they sort of developed the IP a bit, and they're acting as sort of a franchise for Amazon. With that FAR analysis in mind, we kind of jump into which is the best method to use. I decided upon the CPM, comparable profits margin method, because it provides that because using Bureau van Dijk and TP Catalyst, I was able to find the most amount of information that would lead to the tested party being this Amazon subsidiary in Ireland, leading to have enough information as a tested party to find out what the comparable uncontrolled parties were leading to the comparable profits. And I chose this over the other methods because there was more information available with TP Catalyst. The search strategy I employed, I'm going to walk through it right now, is basically I found SIC codes, geographic region, and conforming the filters with my FAR analysis. So first, I limited my search to publicly listed companies. I did a geographic analysis. I see that it actually, I put all countries actually, but anyway, I must have screenshotted this one. I just had Western countries inputted, but so the two filters main right here on TP Catalyst are limit to publicly listed companies, because a lot of this information is sort of available with the 10Ks, so I figured that would be a good filter, and all geographic regions, because there actually wasn't a lot of publicly available data once you limited it down to the SIC codes. So I used two SIC codes, 5961 catalog mail and order, but I excluded 5045, which is computers and peripheral equipment, the SIC codes being the SEC categories for the industries, and I excluded 5045 under the assumption that Amazon, although it's operating on the internet, computers and servers are completely vital to their business. It's not the business that they're in. They're not like Dell building computers and software. They're a catalog and mail and order business. So with that, I got 24 results, and I started and I manually went through them, and I took out companies that basically didn't fit into this category and weren't online retailers. They were primarily like investment companies using the internet, like in Jersey. Being the Isle of Jersey and Guernsey for real estate development in the English Channel. And a lot of these companies are basically retailers in like Europe or different parts of the world. They're like selling different, usually specialty markets, artwork. They're selling like shoes to like Northern Europe. They're online retailers, arguably fitting the category that Amazon is in. And then I crunched out those numbers with the TP Catalyst, and we got the interquartile range. And within that range, I decided to use the median, which was 3.43 for the 17 comparable companies, because I ended up excluding 7 of the companies. This was the CPM, and so those were the results. With that in mind, I had like tax legislation impact. There's an export incentive under the FDII that might incentivize bringing IP back from the US, so it might incentivize Amazon to bring back its IP from Ireland. Although it's likely that the WTO might strike this down in future years, but it still might be a good idea temporarily. The GILTI tax, global intangible low income, operates as it functions to affect like controlled foreign corporations, which possibly this Amazon entity could be construed to be one. You'd have your qualified business income. Part of that income would be part of the tainted income would be caught up by the CFC rules and taxed in the U.S. And the base erosion and anti-abuse tax could also affect intangible. Well, it could affect this transaction. There's new definitions for IP that we would have to look into as well, that are coming up in the code. And of course, the U.S. tax rate would be something to consider in terms of bringing back IP. And then one thing to consider is that there might be new changes in BEPS definitions of like shifting risk, specifically focusing on action item 9. Just as a simple example, you know, if you have you have an asset, this guy has an asset, where's it going to be taxed? This is just, it's individual. That's like your basic federal income tax 1, that's like section 61 income. But let's say you put an entity around this, a C entity or something, or even an LLC if you don't check the box. The company itself is going to be taxed. But if you're kind of reaching high levels of capitalism, you know, let's say you're managing assets such as in Seattle, and you have assets abroad, which would include IP. The BEPS arguably is saying, traditionally we would tax where the IP is, but BEPS is saying, well, we should tax where the intellectual property is in Ireland, this is sort of like the analysis that I pulled out. This is BEPS language right here, the 6-step analysis. I'm focusing on, they pretend like they're going to contracts first, but then they say, well, really in step 5, interpretation of risk analysis is going to trump the contracts, because you look at the definitions in the BEPS report, you look at control over risk, which would be the Seattle company with the managing aspects, which is the party assuming the risk to absorb the consequences in case there's a failure in Ireland. And this interpretation is supported by this quote from BEPS Action 9, paragraph 165. The capability to make decisions. Seattle definitely has capability to make decisions and how to respond to risk, and it definitely has the financial capacity to make these decisions. So that's all to say that ultimately BEPS might suggest that that Ireland shouldn't be taxed, it should be taxed in the U.S. That's just something to consider. So ultimately, the 3.43 could lead to the final report, and could find itself in the master file, CBC reporting, and the local file. And that's